What's up, guys? It's Mrjamvad, and today we're in for some different Q&A time, baby. I really enjoy doing these. I really enjoy sharing more about me outside of the context of Pokemon, and thus every now and again I want to offer a Q&A. I get questions all the time, and so particularly with with the growth of the channel and new subscribers, I think it'll provide a lot of context, who I am, what motivates me, and it'll help you understand why I am the way I am a lot more. I think context is very important. I think we're very quick to judge. I've definitely been guilty of this in the past, and it's something that I'm still guilty of, and I have to consciously eradicate. And so hopefully with this Q&A, you can sit back, relax, put this on in the background, and these are always a pleasure to listen to according to my subscribers, and so hopefully you can feel the same. And so I'm gonna hop right into it. I have quite a few questions, and I'm gonna be putting some chill, relaxing music as you listen to my voice. This might be something you go to sleep with, whatever. Let's get on into it. And so I'm going to be saying the person's name and then their question, and then I'm going to answer it. So yeah, let's get it. So our first question is from my boy, longtime subscriber Wabafet0, and he asks, how would you rank these competitive OU metas in terms of what's most enjoyable? He lists generation 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, this is more of a personal opinion type of question. There are no, the question was which ones would I find most enjoyable, not like, which one was most competitive. And because enjoyment is subjective, right? I may enjoy Gen 5 because it had rain was permanent. Rain, if you're newer, that actually weather used to be permanent. You didn't have 5 turns of weather. They actually changed that in Gen 6. I'd say for me, enjoyment wise, I'd say I was most active in generation 6, so I definitely have a bias towards that. I'd say generation 6, then 7 close behind. I think Gen 7 had a lot of creative things. But like Gen 6 had the megas and all that. Like I think I really enjoyed Gen 6. It's not that close. Gen 7 I really enjoyed as well, but it's not as much as Gen 6. Then Gen 8, then Gen 5. I didn't enjoy Gen 5 OU. I actually used to be a UU main. I started off not playing OU. I didn't start maining OU until generation 6. And looking back, I think back in my 18-year-old, 17-year-old self, just couldn't handle the fact that I wasn't that good at it, and I didn't like losing. And so I think I felt insecure about the fact that I couldn't perform at the highest level back then. With all, like, my results were inconsistent. Like, I could beat, now mind you, I wasn't as good, period, like just as a player, but I was easily topping the UU ladders and the lower tier ladders, but it was very difficult for me to top. I could get to maybe top 20 or so and top 10, but like I couldn't consistently beat down players in the OU tier. So I think back then I just didn't feel adequate. Things I'd learned later on, looking back, but I'm sure that was what motivated me to stick to lower tiers. It wasn't until Gen 6 that whatever force within me caused me to venture out into OU, where the quote-unquote best players tend to stay. I think beyond the point, I'm done playing in the little leagues. It doesn't mean the UU players aren't as good as OU players. That's not what I'm, or even better. It's just a bigger pool, and so it's the most respected tier. To be classified as the best, you kind of have to be the best OU player. If you're the best UU player, you're still kind of you're not viewed as the best. Kind of like soccer. Like oftentimes the best player in the world is viewed as the goal scorer, not necessarily like the defenders who be killing it, unless you're Van Dyke. We'll talk about that later. And so that's where I'd list them. A bit long-winded. I'm a long-winded guy, forgive me. Luckily I have a soothing voice and chill background music to compensate for that. So yeah. And so I'm gonna Cole Hadouken asks, any hopes of recovering the new channel? It's actually been recovered for almost 7 months. I got it back in January. I just didn't have any monetization ability, and by the time January had come around, I think I was maybe 7,000 subscribers, 6,000 subscribers into the academy. Like, the views were great. We had already created the academy Discord. The house tour was starting to come about. Like, the academy just had a momentum that couldn't be stopped, and it was at its, I wouldn't say its peak. Like, we're doing well now, but like, the momentum was way too heavy with the academy, and so many beautiful things had come from that channel hacking and then, you know, the guy, like, essentially eradicated all my subscribers by spamming. I just wanted to leave that channel in the past, have it as like a relic of, you know, okay, you know, it was there, a lot of good videos, a lot of good memories, but I'm never going back to it as like a main channel. And so yeah, I did get it back, bro. Thanks for asking. And so I'm not gonna say your entire name. I'm just gonna say the first part. Laxican asks, what's the most frustrating move for me to miss? That is a wonderful question. It's not Focus Blast, because I think I inherently expect to miss it. I think that'd have to be a move that I don't expect to miss, but I miss far. Toxic. This, what the fuck was I thinking? That's not even called Toxic. I can feel it in my, like, core. It's tox. Oh my fucking, somebody literally, like, responded for me. Marius, this guy must be an OG sub, like a real day one. He responded, said, has to be Toxic, so crucial. That's why it feels so good to click it with a poison type. Man, in Uber, if you watch my old Uber, oh my, Toxic, oh my, I hate missing Toxic. Easy. And so Audie, back to the next question. Audie asks, what's the best Cinderace counter you've come across? I like using screen keys to help lessen the damage and Thunder Wave after if possible, but wondering what else there is. Well, Audie, Clef Key isn't exactly a counter in the way you're describing it here. You're like using something that can, like, you know, cripple Cinderace, but like a counter is generally something that can deal with a Pokemon infinitely. And so an example of this would be, let's say you have a Gliscor, which is a flying ground type, and you have a Stunfisk, which is an electric ground type. Like, Stunfisk, if it only uses moves that are of its type, so stab moves, it can never touch Gliscor. It's just an absolute counter. Like, we're not saying, oh, maybe it runs Scald, none of that. Assuming it only has moves of its type, Gliscor's typing walls both its stabs. Ground moves cannot touch Gliscor because of its flying type. Electric moves cannot affect it because of its ground type. And so that's a counter, like something that can infinitely switch in on that Pokemon with very little consequences, and can threaten it back. So that's a counter. So Cinderace is an interesting one. You could argue it might be the most broken mon. You know, Mrjamvad and Cinderace are pretty close. Both are manageable, but health wise, you know, are they healthy? You know, that's a different discussion. Best counter. Because I don't know. The reason I'm like best counter, like, I don't know if Cinderace is counterable. I'd say probably the best check. What's been successful for me is Toxapex with either Baneful Bunker or a Rocky Helmet, some variation of that, and something else that can pivot around. It's usually two Pokemon, but Toxapex has been, I know it runs in Headbutt, but like, you know, like, I've usually been able to outplay, and that's not a counter by any means. I don't think that Pokemon has a counter. I've seen a lot of people run Rhyperior as of late, but I mean, because Cinderace doesn't run high jump kick, they run Gunk Shot, and so Rhyperior can be pretty solid. Yeah, it's not counterable. Its moveset doesn't allow for it to be countered. I think maybe because Choice Banded high jump kick adamant destroys Hippowdon, which is like one of the most defensive things. I think maybe the closest thing you could get to a counter is like a defensive Arcanine. You come in Intimidate and you eat 2 with the heavy duty boots, I think on defensive, intimidate Arcanine, and then when it changes its typing, you can will-o-wisp burn it if you so choose. I think an Arcanine maybe would be the best, or some kind of insanely bulky water type, but none of them are coming to mind at the moment. Perhaps like if something else had a Jellicent typing, maybe Jellicent. It doesn't take Zen Headbutt the best, but maybe that. I don't know. I'd say probably defensive Arcanine. Okay, Marquise Phantom asks, when were you born? I was born in 1995. Yep, 1995. So I just turned 25 earlier this year. So I'm actually technically drifting into old age. But yeah, the old jokes were just that. Joey's actually older than me. Back when the old jokes started, I was like 19. With those old man memes, I was like 19, maybe just turning 20. So yeah, yeah, that answers that. So Anu, sorry if I chopped your name, my guy. You're my guy. What other games do you enjoy playing? I'd guess you'd be into chess, with how much you can relate to turn-based Pokemon, position, sacrifice, endgame. Keep up the good work. Always enjoy your content. Thank you, my man. It's actually funny. People over the years have associated me with playing either poker or chess. I've never played either. I have never played chess. I don't know how the hell all chess works. Nothing. And I've never played poker. Don't know how to play it. Nothing. Funnily enough, the other game I enjoyed playing was FIFA. I actually really enjoyed the game of soccer. And so FIFA was like a big, oh man, I loved FIFA. But then, I just fell in love with Pokemon. And so I couldn't afford a game console because I used to play on a PSP back when I lived in Jamaica. And so that was, I didn't have the money or the resources. My grandma sent me a PSP for my, I think, graduation gift for her birthday. For whatever. And I ended up like not eating any lunch for like days. Like I remember back in the day, man, if I wanted something, man, lunch food was I would like go without lunch because you get lunch money in Jamaica because you have to purchase your lunch. And so I'd get my lunch money and I wouldn't spend shit, and I just stack it for like 3 weeks. I maybe have like a cookie or something. When you're hungry, you can have like some sweets, and then I'd stack it and I'd stack it and I'd stack it, and then I'd go to the game shop and then I'd get. Man, I remember I used to, because again, I don't think I realized that I'd be what most would classify as poor, certainly in Jamaica, in America standards. I never really thought of it as poor because very few people had like affluence, not at least around me. And so I've never been one to need too much, and I'm very grateful for that upbringing. It's funny, I always felt like I had some kind of, I never really shared it. I don't know if shame would have been what, I don't think that's what it is, but maybe there must have been a hint of that, because why wouldn't I have shared it, right? Like actually reflecting, like, why don't I share my poor upbringing? Maybe some kind of, I don't want my people pitying me because I don't need people's pity. I'm fine. Like, I've never, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd have to think more on that. But yeah, FIFA, and I enjoy playing soccer in real life. Like I'm decent at that. So yeah, to answer that. What are your hobbies outside of Pokemon? Okay, I guess that kind of answers that. Hobbies. Actually, really, I wonder if this would classify as a hobby. I think Pokemon is my hobby. Because I'm aiming to build things outside of that. I really addressed that in my last Q&A. Definitely check that out if you haven't. But I might touch on that depending on where the questions go. But my ultimate aim in life is to help people who have the capabilities to do things, who believe that they do not have the capability to do certain things. Things meaning things they are capable of and would like to have in their life. So, like example, how I met my best friend to this day. When we met in freshman year, he had zero confidence, like at all, like when it comes to women and all these things. And back then, now I'm like a fucking animal. Like your chick will be snatched. But kidding, but not. Like I wouldn't take your girl, but like I could probably, maybe. No, but like in all seriousness, he had no confidence. And I remember a conversation because I always gravitated to people who needed help. I think that's could be good and bad. But like I feel like I'll go like a fucking 100 miles to help somebody like see their worth. I don't know why that's the case. But like that shit drives me nuts when I see somebody who has the capabilities, but they believe because somebody told them some shit or that shit. Like I'm getting hot just talking about it, right? Like that shit, I hate that. And so he said to me, I remember I was in his room and he said to me, you know, the reason I always like keep my room neat and you know like I'm very self-sufficient in the sense of, you know, he always cleans up after himself. He knows how to iron his clothes. He knows how to cook for himself, whatever. It's because he's okay with he's kind of accepted the potentiality of, you know, one day I might never find anybody. And mind you, when I was looking at my boy, I'm like, dude, like you're not even like, you think he had 3 arms and a tail and a horn or something. Like just a regular dude, you know, like I wouldn't classify him as an ugly guy. But he had this belief system. And so he said to me, he said that I said this, and I say a lot of shit, but I don't remember. This is my 18-year-old, maybe just turned 19-year-old. So he said that I said to him, I'm like, bullshit. You're going to have a girl by next year. And so fast forward, we hung out for a year, and I think almost to the month, he had his very first girlfriend the next year, and she came on to him. And so, you know, we've been best friends ever since, and he'd always bring that up, kind of like, damn, you know, if we never met, you know, Lord knows where I'd be now. Not in like he didn't put in the work, because it's not as if I'm holding his hand, but I'd certainly like push. Like I'm not an easy person to be around. I'm certainly more so now than back then, but I'm such a pusher, you know, like I do not take shit and excuses and blah blah blah. And so I'm actually a lot more gentle in my videos because I understand, like I now have more context for like, okay, you know, that person, I'm not as judgy. So it's like, okay, that person is here and they're struggling to find the strength, not because they're choosing to be weak, but because they need they may need some time and encouragement consistently. So rather than after the first 2 times of like, come on, let's get this, and then being like, fuck it, I mean, it's your life, if you want to be a fit. Like that's how I used to be when I was younger, and I'm like, now I'm a lot more compassionate and empathetic toward a person situation, and so I'm a lot more patient, and so I'm grateful for that. But I'm not perfect, obviously. I'm sure I'm gonna look back 5 years from now like, damn, you know, this version of me was could have used some work, some sprucing up. But yeah, so he asked what my hobbies are, and I went on that rant. My bad, guys. But yeah, and so that's Pokemon's my hobby, and I want to in life help people realize what capabilities they have, so they can have a better quality of life. It manifests in Pokemon. That's I think how the Academy came about, and that's when I started to honing on like, man, I do it here, every avenue of my life. And so I had to kind of think back and like, what do I want? Like if I had to leave this earth today, and I'm like, man, what do I want people to either know, or if there was one aspect of everybody I'd meet that I'd want to have a massive impact on. I don't want to use a word as strong as change, because who am I to change a person? But strongly impact, it would be the belief that you can. So that's my hobbies, Pokemon. Yeah. And so Do you want to play chess sometime? See, another person assumes that I play chess. No, because you just crush me and lower my self-esteem. No, but like I don't play chess. I don't know how to, and I'm sure one day I'd probably be into learning, but like I have so many things that I want to do that investing time in learning how to play chess now is just not on top of my priority list. And so yeah, I'm in give mode right now. I have so many articles and things and so much I want to do to share what I've learned with you guys, and so like that's what gets me pumped up. Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Solar asks, OG sub, shout outs to Mr. Solar, man. Always been such a positive guy. Back when I used to stream, like love this dude. Like awesome dude. Going a bit off topic, but this is something that's been tormenting me lately, and maybe old wise man Jan can give me some insight. Are you the type of person that embraces change or fears the uncertainty that follows? The cool answer is embracing change. I think I was a person that had the capacity to fear the uncertainty that follows, and then I trained myself to not. And so I've read so many books at this point. Check the description. Mindset by Carol Dweck. If you want to help understand Jam, or you want to understand me a bit more, I linked, if you go all the way down to the bottom of my description, I linked 3 audiobooks. 2 are just an hour long, super short. And the other ones, the first hour will give you the idea of what it's about. And those books will transform you beyond Pokemon, But I'd say certainly somebody that embraces, I wouldn't say I embrace change. It's not like I look for change. I just understand that, how do I frame it? I don't like feeling weak. And so that is a big thing with me. Call it my ego or my, whatever the fuck that is. But I don't like the feeling that somebody is capable of something and I am incapable of it. And so, one of my big motivators, I used to be deathly afraid of approaching women. Sure, I'd get attention and stuff here and there, but it wasn't consistent, obviously, because women, I won't even say that anymore, but because I'll go into that. And so women can be very aggressive, but it wasn't. I had to I didn't like the feeling of man, we're at a party and I had to get her to come talk to me and shit. I hated that. But I was just scared when I was 18. I didn't know what to say, all that. No game. My game was when they came to me, I could talk to them. And so, or when they showed pretty obvious interest, then I'd have the confidence to do it. And so, because I could see other guys that were able to do it, it bothered me. Not in a hating kind of way. I'm but if he can do it, I never want to feel like another guy has something over me. In that area that I care about. If you're a good croquet player, I don't give a fuck. I'm all for you. But that's why I'm so competitive in Mons, because I give a fuck. And so there was just no way I was gonna continue playing Mons and not be the best. I was the best. Can I become the best again? Yes. Because that's how I wrote the book. If I couldn't have any conviction in sharing that if I didn't believe the information. And so it would just require me investing a ton of time in tournaments. And I'd rather share the information now, winning a trophy now at this point in the career, maybe early in the years, just has very little value to me. And so what gets my gears going is that PM from that guy who broke through 1400 for the first time after playing for 3 years and struggling in the 1100s. That's what gets me going now, not more wins in tours. I've had enough of those. And so I'm definitely the person that embraces change, but again, it's more from a place of I don't like feeling weak, and I think if I can't embrace the change and other people can, then I am weaker than them, and I don't like that. And so it may be my ego or whatever, but it served me, and so I'm definitely not afraid of the uncertainty. Also, I view myself as the anchor for so many people in my life, and so I'm the emotional backbone of so many people, online and in real life, and so I can't afford to be fearful of the uncertainty. If I don't step out and lead and kind of like, you know, take it to the chest and handle that shit, then the people I love and care about are gonna be vulnerable. And not to say I don't want to foster their own strength. I just think as if being a born leader is a thing, I think that's just my mission. That's something I gravitate towards a lot. And I could go into a whole other conversation about that. But yeah, I'd say it embraces change. Long-winded. Chao Not says, who are the best Pokemon players in your view? Do you intend to enter any tournaments in the future? And I'm from the old days, and I really enjoy to see you at your best. So he was from back in the day when I used to dominate the game. The best player, I don't know. I'm just not caught up in the tournament scene enough. I'd say probably like best OE player consistency wise, ABR. That's because I've seen ABR come up from back in the day. And so, I know he won Smogon Tour and something, just from a consistency standpoint. But Pokemon is a type of game where it's not quite, that's why I always say one of the best, because it's just one of those games that anybody technically, once you hit a certain point, can beat anybody given the matchup, and given hacks and all these things. And so, I just default to ABR, but that's not a educated opinion. I'm not involved in the community. Do I intend to enter any tournaments in the future? I like entering World Cup because they give me 3 weeks, and my schedule is just not. It's a busy fucking schedule as I'm building business outside of here and on YouTube. Not a business on YouTube, but like I have a lot of things that I need to get done. And maybe I do a business. I don't think so, but we'll see. But I have a lot to share here, and so I just don't have the time to. Again, like winning a trophy just isn't doing it for me. And so World Cup, I entered World Cup, but I didn't end up getting subbed because I didn't have the time to even look at who my opponents were. And so I'll try, but I don't know. I want to, but I don't know. And so Swedma says, as a fellow ATLian, means I'm from Atlanta or live in Atlanta, Georgia, that area. What are some of your favorite spots to eat? I'm actually not a foodie. I'm like the simplest. I cook to save money, and like my skin is really sensitive. I feel like I've been blessed with so much, and I think my one drawback is my skin sensitivity. Like certain things just break me out. I hate that. And so I used to complain about it, man. Why, man, some people can eat whatever the fuck they want. When I was younger, I was obviously just bitching about it. Man, they can eat whatever the fuck they want. And then now I look at it from the perspective of like, man, like I am blessed, like I have so many things going for me to the point where sometimes I feel guilty, and so I'm like, if it means I just lose this one thing where I have to be strict with my diet to not break out, then I'm grateful. Like I'm not I'm not saying being short is bad, but like I'm 6'1", I'm muscular, all these things, and I'll go into that because I saw a question earlier that probably will bring it into that. And I mean this not in a like, I want to say things in a very matter of fact way. I want to be more transparent. That's something that I feel like I can be better at. I have nothing to gain from trying to impress you, but I could also withhold it for what, and so I'll just give it to you how I give it to you, and it's the truth. And so like, I got, if you don't like me for that, I can't really control that. I got nothing but love for you, and I hope you have a good day. So my favorite spots to eat, I don't know. Like there's this one spot called Hot and Cold that I like, but I think that's just from nostalgia. I don't think the food is particularly like insane. I love Chinese food, so anywhere Chinese food, I'll eat it. And Jamaican spots, I love a good beef patty, cocoa bread. Random Things 23 asks, How do you prevent overthinking your own and your opponent's leads at team preview? I feel like I tend to do this a lot against mid-ladder players, where I give them a lot of respect and I anticipate that they won't let me execute my turn one game plan, hazard screens, field conditions, right? He's been reading the book. Without suffering consequences down the line, sacking your mind, forcing This backfires sometimes. I'm fully aware of this. Sometimes because I give them the obvious switch because my lead is important win condition. This backfires sometimes, so I reread that. And I'm giving them a methodology that they may have no preparations for in the first place, and I could have just made the optimal lead decision. This will never completely go away. Basically what he's saying in layman terms is like, my opponents sometimes make decisions that would have they take high risk, low reward plays. So they like a play that's just like a predicting type, I always call them, or a gut play that doesn't really have a game plan or any logic other than I feel like my opponent's gonna do this, so I'm gonna do this. And so with those, you can never truly get out of that, because Pokemon, no matter how good you get, it's an interactive game. It's not like fighting where if you're good enough, like you may be able to beat an opponent without them doing very much damage to you. In Pokemon, a person can just randomly smash their computer and end up winning the game just because of it's interactive. So you may predict because okay, that's the best play, and he may have he may just set up, or it's just not as linear no matter how good you get. And so what I always recommend for people who are this is just kind of formulate that game plan and plot it in a way where you have to depend on your opponent very little. And so if, let's say example, you're gonna try to set up with Volcarona, right? Try it, and then he has a Scizor, for example. Rather than trying to get Volcarona in versus a what's something that Volcarona can kill but can do a lot of damage back, it's super obvious, but it's not crossing my mind right now. Let's say he has a 50% Tyranitar that he needs for something else on your team, and if he loses that Tyranitar, not only he'd probably lose to not just Volcarona but that other thing you have in the back. Let's say it's a Psychic type or something, and you go into Volcarona, you're like, okay, he has to switch, and so I'm going to Quiver Dance, because if he loses Tyranitar, then he loses to this, and he just stays in and Rock Slides you or Stone Edges you. And you're like, man, what the hell is wrong with this guy? The better decision in that situation is to make the play that gives him as little credit as possible. So rather than trying to set up, you either just straight Bug Buzz kill it, or you go to something that knocks out both Tyranitar and gets you a lot of value. I can tell you read the book based on your terminology, and so you'll know what that means, but gets you the most value out of the turn overall until you can really get a read on your opponent. But even then, that's not guaranteed. And so I just always recommend formulating a game plan that relies very, very, very little on predicting. Try to minimize as little prediction as possible. People think predicting is like the acme of excellence or something. It's actually the best players try to play in a way where they never have to predict, because predicting is something that puts power in your opponent's hands, and you want to take as much power out of your opponent's hands as possible. And so hopefully that makes sense. Random things, if it doesn't, just message me on Discord, and then I'll try my best to clarify a little bit more. Okay. Black asks, why can somebody like me who watches you, Joey, for years and years see and point out bad plays, but for whatever reason cannot apply it to my own games? I learned this, oh my goodness, when I wrote my book, right? The first one, because I wrote this is it's like the second version, an improved version of the first one. When I wrote the first one, I always used to wonder, I'm like, man, I make these videos. That's what inspired me to write the book, and I'll get into that because somebody asked me the question. When I first got into like I was like narrating, my narrations were detailed, all that, and then I'd play my subscribers, and then they'd make like nonsense plays, right? And so when I wrote the book, I had taken a big hiatus, maybe like 7 months, and I came back, and as I was like saying, I'm gonna write the book, and you know, I'm gonna leave YouTube, whatever, but I want to give it all before I leave. When I was writing that, I realized, holy fucking shit, like as I was gaining my skills while writing the book at the same time and writing down what I'm doing, I made the same mistakes my damn viewers made, and I could not believe it coming from, you know, like the level I was at, and it was so humbling. I'm like, holy shit. And so that gave me a lot of context in writing that, because that's how I discovered the 3 pillars. Black, go watch the 3 pillars video. I would put money on the fact that you have the skills, because you said that, you know, you can point out bad plays and you have the knowledge, but you don't have awareness in your games, guys. And I always say this to my coaching guys who I coach, and it's such a common thing. Like 90% of the time, I just tell them this one thing, and the session really could be over, because it's just that one thing. This is something that happens if you know about the 3 pillars. If you don't, definitely go check out the playlist, or like 3 pillars Jamvad YouTube. It's super important. Gain you like 300 points just watching that video. And so what tends to happen is people do the left to right analysis. People will, and this is what I see in my coaching class all the time. People do the left to right analysis, but when they do it, what they then do is say, so they'll do, okay, I think this is good versus my opponent, this is good, I gotta be careful of that. They talk all this shit, all this stuff, and I'm not talking like, you know, I'm not talking shit to them. Like, I'm just saying, like, you know, you think you're on it. But then what I see, the mistake I see them make often is then from there they go, well, what is he going to lead with? They don't do the game plan. They think that doing the left to right analysis is the game plan. No, the game plan is this. I'm giving so much free stuff. Have it all. I want the community to grow. So after you do the left to right analysis, after that, you want to ask, how am I going to do that? So people will say, okay, my Volcarona sweeps, and then they'll say, what is he gonna lead with? And so I'm like, wait, how is Volcarona gonna sweep? What do you need to do to ensure Volcarona sweeps? Oh yeah, and then I need to get Toxapex to 40% by using knockoff on my Clefable, getting up stealth, and so that is the game changer right there. That is called awareness. That's the pillar that most people think about skill and knowledge, but awareness. And what's even more interesting is awareness drops if you're not mindful. So when you enter the game, you may have heightened awareness at team preview, but as the turns progress, you start to go into autopilot and your awareness drops. And so the game plan you had in the beginning, if you ever notice this, you'll have a game plan, and then 14 turns in, you make a really quote unquote dumb play, and you're like looking back over the game like, why the hell did I do that? Why did I sack my Ferrothorn? Why did I let this go? It's because your awareness dropped. And the way to always continually keep your awareness up is by asking yourself questions. It's like, okay, so each turn you can do this and say, okay, like, where am I in relation to my game plan? So, okay, like, you know, let's say you kill a Pokemon, reassess. Okay, where am I in relation? Okay, so his sacked his Toxapex turn 1. What does that mean for me now? Maybe something that wasn't a threat before is now a threat because he sacked his Ferrothorn or Toxapex turn 1. And so realizing and readjusting at all times, asking yourself questions is always the pathway to awareness. And so that's free game right there. Yeah, but that should fix your issue. Your awareness is low. It's funny that 3 people try to respond. I love the academy attitude. Everybody's always trying to assist. Just another archive gave my favorite answer. He's like, he may seem like a cop-out advice, but just check out the book. It's facts. John Cena asks, what's your favorite Pokemon song, if any? Pokemon song? I don't think about Pokemon songs. I'd probably say Meteor Falls because it just like the nostalgia is crazy. Ruby was my first game, and like Salamence is my favorite Pokemon, so Meteor Falls for sure. It's my favorite music album. I'd probably say, I mean, back in the day, probably like Born Sinner by J. Cole. I don't know. Born Sinner by J. Cole, maybe. I like To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick as well. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's definitely something. Like, when I think of favorite, I'm like, could I listen to? Funnily enough, probably Chance's, like, not 10 Day, Acid Rap. I can listen to Acid Rap beginning to end. But I don't know if I have a favorite album. I'm not that kind of music listener anymore. Like, I just listen to shit that fits my mood. And I listen to a lot of podcasts and like ratchet shit, actually. Like, I'll listen to Young Dolph and stuff, depending on my mood. And I'll listen to chill hop, no voices, and so, or classical music. It varies depending on my mood. I'd say probably like, I'd say probably Born Sinner. What do you do for a living outside of YouTube? I'm actually in clothing sales, suits, things of that nature, and I'm building an image consulting firm, and that's in the area of like clothing image, because I think I'm African American. I'm not African American because I'm not African nor American, but by actual birth. But I'm black, Jamaican, and so they do. Something that drove my passion, something I noticed about me is whenever I discover something, I want to share it with people. I don't want anybody else to go through what the fuck I just went through and suffer through that, or like be blind to that. And so something I realized when I was setting my ambitions, I guess, goals in life, earlier in my life when I was a lot younger, my bar was very low, for what I considered success. And part of that was the programming of my parents and whatnot, and they were just programmed by what they knew to be success. We all been there. I'm sure you all have parents that wanted you to be, YouTube is for kids, what are you doing, get a job, like whatever. Obviously things evolve. I'm sure basketball was once something that was just like, you're gonna be a basketball player. Now parents move their kids to like a completely different state just to have them have a shot at being in the league. So that's how things evolve, and gaming is evolving in the same way. But yeah, I didn't like that, and I'm very introspective, and so I like to understand why I'll think in a certain way, and I'll dig, and I'll read, and I'll watch. And so once I realized, oh wow, like that was heavily influenced by the images that were around me. And I mean images in not just, news, but, people around me or the lack thereof. And so if you, or if I, as a young black male, never saw any, black astronauts, then that's not in the scope of my reality. If you're an Indian guy and you never see any Indian football players, that's not in your scope of reality. Football meaning American football. Or Jeremy Lin, like there were no real Asian basketball players, and so Jeremy Lin broke that mold. And so, some kid who's Asian now like actually has there's one guy who did it. And so that right there is something that's huge. And I believe within the culture I've noticed here and in Jamaica, I think the black man's self-image is something that could use quite a bit of work. And so I'm a very strategic person, as you can tell by my Pokemon videos. And so if I were to go up to that person, hey man, wear a suit because of this and that, right? Just an example. They already have their preconceived notion. I'm like, why the fuck would they listen to me, right? Or, your image is important, blah, blah, blah. And so my game plan is to become what they want to be. They meaning a youngster coming up, I may I'll pull you in with the bait of what you want from me. And so a lot of people listen to me because they would like my skill set, and so they admire me through that. But and I'll just be honest, Pokemon isn't even the forefront of whatever. I enjoy it, but it's not the forefront of why I keep uploading. My real goal is to use Pokemon as the discipline of Pokemon to help people tackle their insecurities, their fears. Just like how basketball, Kobe has learned so much from the game, and all he did was bounce a ball. But there were so many truths in that game. Pokemon also has a lot of truths, and so I see a lot of people struggling with anxiety, fear, insecurity, ego issues. And so when I really started to tap into that and start to hear the behind the scenes, because I'm like, I gave them the info, why aren't they? And then I learned so many people don't play, and I'm like, why? Why would you watch me? You don't why? And then I get anxiety, and I'm like, oh, and so I'm heavy on that. So that's that anxiety is not because of Pokemon. You have anxiety around the idea of failure, embarrassment, putting yourself out there, period. And so that's gonna manifest. And so if I can help you overcome that in Pokemon, then maybe that'll give you a little bit of courage in other areas. Because Pokemon the game has taught me a lot about several things beyond this. Persistence, dealing with the hacks of life, knowing that things won't always go your way, celebrating your wins, all these things. And so that's what I'm truly interested in. And so to get back to living off YouTube, I'm gonna really attack that with my all through media company and an image company. And so on the front end, you'll be attracted to me because maybe I'm women want me, or because you think I care about this Rolls Royce. But then once I get you at that certain level of consciousness, because when you're coming from that place, you're like, oh, I think this car will make me happy, I think this whip or this nice house, and then I'll lure you in with the the honey, so to speak, and then sprinkle in a bit of wisdom from what I've learned. And okay, this is how you want to be, like this, you want this stuff, this is how I do it. And so sprinkling in the importance of self-image and the importance of reading and things of that nature. And so bit by bit chipping away at the negative aspects. My culture, my people have a lot of positive traits, but they also have a lot of negative ones that are holding us back as a group. And so I think those can be, over the next 50 years, I can't say, again, I won't use the word changed, but definitely I can do my part at chipping away at that. And so yeah, that's kind of long-winded, but And so T-Bag says, you said in a recent video that you had a psychology degree and are working on getting or something like that, which is true. I graduated in a bachelor of psychology, and I would like to know more about that. How has it benefited you?
Oh boy!
Did you turn that into a job? When did you realize it's something you wanted to do, etc.? I got 1 year left in high school, and I'm very interested in getting into psychology, so I'd like to hear your 2 cents. Shout outs to T-Bag, man. Fuck, I feel like an old fart, giving advice and shit. Who am I? So, and I'm gonna not take so long to answer the questions, but yeah. I initially was gonna do exercise science. One, because my mom always wanted me to be a doctor. I agreed when I was younger. What the fuck did I know? Turns out I hate blood. I dislike gore. I'm very, I don't know if empathetic would be the word, but I don't like seeing people get harmed physically or see blood, or because I feel it in me. And so if you were to hit your head, I'd grab my head instinctually. I don't know why that is, and I think that kind of leans into why I hate when people don't believe in themselves, because I don't know, but and so because of that, I decided to do, I'm gonna still stay in the medical field. but I'm gonna do something that doesn't have a lot of gore. So I went into exercise science, gonna do a physical therapy, and then I hated it. Like, I would say I hated it, but I just didn't. I was like so indifferent to it. I didn't care about chemistry, and so I remember it was Christmas break, and I remember it was dark in my room, and I stumbled upon a Carl Jung video, and I was like watching it and listening to it, and I was in dark in my room, and it hit me. I don't even remember what it was. Thinking a discussion about the shadow, and it hit me. I'm like, this is the shit I do in my free time. I may have been like 18 or 19, just turned 20, or not even, or turning 20 the next year. And then it hit me. I'm like, in my free time, I gravitate towards human behavior. That's what I've always been into. And so that was that fall semester, the end of fall semester. And the next semester, I was like, psychology. Like, that's what I've always been into. What makes people tick? That's always it. No matter what field, no matter what, like, I'm always asking, why did you do that? If you've ever PM'd me, you notice I always ask you, well, why? What did I say that triggered it for you? And da 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 da. And so that, started my psychology journey. Has it benefited me? Not really. Like, not in like the way you probably think. To get any meaningful job that is kind of a practice with regards to psychology, you have to go and get your master's degree. I haven't done so because I didn't determine what I wanted to do yet, and I didn't want to invest, debt in getting a master's degree in something that I do not want to do just for the sake of whoever the fuck, are saying that I have a job in psych. I had to really love that shit, and so I decided to go after college into just whatever psych job and learn what I didn't like, learn what I don't know. I don't know what I don't know, so I just wanted to do some jobs and find out what the fuck is out here before I made a decision. And so now over YouTube, I found that manifesting itself in every little thing I do. And I think I have a gift in help providing perspective for people. And that would be an entire different conversation in and of itself if I were to go into all these things. But I definitely have noticed an aptitude in helping communicate certain concepts, like very complicated things, in ways that are not simple. That's not the word I'd use, but digestible and practical, and lands without the person's defenses going up. And so I know how to get in there. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I think people tell me a lot of things very like willy-nilly. I don't say willy-nilly because it's not like easy for a person to share something vulnerable, but like, people trust me. And people will tell me very deep things very early, and I'm very good at letting like something I've noticed, and this I tried to learn myself so I can realize, okay, what do I want to do in life? What are my strengths? And then I noticed, like, man, I am very good at holding people's attention in a conversation. I can't say over YouTube, but certainly in real life, I'll have like easy 8-hour conversations, easy. And the person doesn't even realize it's been 8 hours, and they don't want it to stop. And sometimes I have to go, or just the natural end of like, okay, like something cuts it to where like, it's 3 a.m, bro, we gotta go. And so I don't know if that's a communication thing. I've had certain subscribers describe it as charismatic, but I'm not trying. When I think of charismatic, I think of like, I know when I'm doing charisma. Like, I know times where I'm like I want you to do something that I want you to do, and so I'm like doing charisma. But I don't think I do that in my videos. And so, people IRL have said similar things in here, so I'm like, maybe there's something to that. But I can't see it, and so it's just whatever. But yeah. If you're just fascinated by human behavior, what makes people tick, I think you could go into learning it. But you can also learn. You don't have to depend on the classes to teach you what you need to know. You can, honestly, all they do is give me a textbook, and I could have read that shit myself and learned what I learned outside of college. And so, you know, do with that what you will. I'm not a professional. And Mark asks, what do you think makes a good Pokemon gimmick? Dynamax, Mega, Z move. Have you thought of one you think would be cool? I have not. I think what makes a good Pokemon gimmick is it being predictable. And what I mean by that is, like, for Megas, for example, because I want to keep skill still in context. Like, Dynamax has an unpredictable effect. You can Dynamax, and there's no guarantee, no matter how skilled. I'm guessing. I'm making an educated guess, but it's a guess. With Z moves, I'm guessing. With Megas, there were certain Megas where you'd have to guess when they'd Mega Evolve, but it was far less so, and you could always tell what the Mega is, and you could also there are a certain range of things it could do. With Z moves, it's too fucking unpredictable. Like, you could have, like, it's just stupid. Dynamax equally so. Megas was limited, and so I don't have one, but Megas definitely being able to still remain competitive is huge for me, and so that's what would make a good one. KRZ just says no cap, always factual, my man. Bandit Ski asks, any collabs in the works? Also, have you played OU Blitz? Because that would be very fun to watch you play at high speeds, given your usual play style. I'm actually not a slow player. Like, I know how to just destroy a person, like, very quickly. It's just not conducive to my channel. Like, I want to help people learn, so I can narrate in a style where I don't explain shit. Alright, so I'm gonna bang, 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 bang. But what value is that to anybody? What I'm gonna do? Show you how good I am? That's, who gives a fuck? And so, yes, actually, a lot of collabs in the works. A lot of collabs. One with Duncan coming up. One with Joey, as you saw. Check that out. Plenty of collabs coming up. Now that the book and the Academy website is coming into, I've just been being patient, guys, building in the background. And so I have a lot of big plans for the Academy. Do you work on recording your live with CTC? No. That's my boy, but, like, unless we just end up there, like, I'm not going to schedule a call with CTC. Like, CTC is just my boy again, but, like, the chemistry isn't. I'm a very, like, competitive, more chill, serious type. And so I don't think the chemistry would be the best. I think CTC is better with Blunder. Is Old Man Jam really that old? No. As I said, 1995, it makes me 25. How did you get people to watch your YouTube videos when you first started? I didn't. When I first started YouTube, bro, like, nobody watched my shit, man. I just wanted to post the videos. Like, I just wanted to, like, oh my goodness, this was a good battle. I want to share it, and then that's how I started. If I had to give tips, unfortunately, and I mean, I can't say for sure because I don't know. I mean, maybe there are other YouTubers out there that that are big that I don't know about, that are within the single scene. But as far as, like, Showdown and whatnot, you know, it's semi-monopolized with me, Joey, Blunder, and Envy. And so, you know, and then, you know, you have people like Finch, DOP, Jellison, and things, and people like that. So you have other channels, but, like, generally the names that come up are going to be us four. And so I'd say if you're going to do competitive content, make sure you are good, because you have to differentiate yourself from whoever else. And so people will watch you, but as far as, like, I feel like the type of traction you think you want, you got okay, put it this way. With the big four, so to speak, what does Joey offer? Joey offers competence and a mixture of that and entertainment and, like, hyperness, and he's, like, the OG, like, the original one. Blunder, entertainment, shit talking, that kind of his charisma within him, and all that. Envy, chill, laid back, casual, and creative. Me, competitive, creative. I'd say some people say chill as well. And so if you can't outdo us in any of those areas, people may watch you because they like you to a degree, but to get their attention initially, like, know how to play. And so, like, all this free content, be good. Like, being good will always help. Like, very few people want to watch anybody in singles that is worse than them. Like, that's actually a very, like, very rarely people are going to watch competitive Showdown for people that are worse than them, because it's just going to frustrate them as they watch you misplay. And so that's why I always have to kind of refresh my skills whenever I'm slooping, because people don't want to watch that shit. They view me as this guy that is like a sensei type thing, whether I want it to be that way or not. That's how it is. And so I need to, be good. Kush Sharma asks, what do you think is the best way to team build? Should I start with one mon and build around it? Should I build a playstyle? All of them. There's no best way. Is it better to pick 6 mons and then pick the EVs for each one? There's no rule. How I do it is I generally get the structure first, EV second, unless I'm building around a particular EV to begin with, like that particular set and EV to begin with. But I go structure first, EV second, because once you have the structure, the EVs are more tailor-made to support the team, but there's no, like, you can team build around a playstyle, you can team build around a mon, you can team build around a set. All of them are yeses. Rashawn Stafford asks, do I have any brothers or sister, or am I only child? I do have a little brother. He is 10, but I was an only child for quite a bit. It wasn't until I was 15 when he was born. And then, so I think I kind of mentally have only child traits, if that's a real thing. But I'm not anymore. Drastly asks, not a question, but I just want to let you know you're definitely one of my favorite YouTubers, next to Joey Blunder and Envy and Moet and Gator. Keep everything you do. Everybody knows you're the best to do it. I appreciate that Drastly. It sounds like he was saying like you're my favorite, other than like 10 other niggas. But yeah, I appreciate that. I know what you meant, and I appreciate that you took the time out to leave that. Darius Leinert asks, I heard you talk about your modeling career at one point. I wouldn't call it a career. How did you start, and how does it affect dating, meeting women? Okay, this is an interesting one. All right, so firstly, I do want to clarify, it wasn't like a modeling career. I've been offered opportunity to model, and so I have done so. So my old job, I was like, doing suits, selling suits, blah, blah, blah. And, I met a guy there who modeled for them, and then he modeled. We got in a conversation, and he's like, bro, you should try out, because I couldn't afford the clothes, and I wanted to be able to wear suits, and I know that's one of the benefits of doing it. You get, like suits and all these things. And so I couldn't afford that. I just started in sales. This was like mid last year, like this time last year, actually. I quit being a behavioral specialist, and something was just saying go into sales, because I was just tired of that. And I'm like, sales? Like, why would I go into sales? I don't give a fuck about sales. And so I just followed that voice and went into it. And that, long story short, led me into clothing, because of all the people I met, and the image thing, and the black man's image, all these things, right? And so from there, and again, I really, this is not something I ever really talk about, because, one, you're here for Pokemon, and two, you're not trying to hear this dude brag about, like, I don't brag about it, because if you knew me in real life, like, sometimes context is so important. But I'll be frank with it, because Darius asked. And so what happened was, everybody there thought I was arrogant. I walk with my head high, like I'm not a hanging my head down type of guy. And so I think a lot of my, I don't think I was a bad looking guy or anything like that prior. I think I was an above average looking guy just based on, how many women I could attract. And I'll go into the women piece in a little bit. But then I worked on my teeth, got those straightened, and like I didn't have a slight. I had a massive gap in the middle. I closed it. Not to say the gap can't make, because that didn't really affect. I've never heard a girl say, "Man, I liked you, but your gap." In fact, I've had women do the opposite. "Oh, I love your gap." Blah, 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 blah. But I felt insecure about it at the time when I smiled, and so I just got rid of it. I think it's better. Nah, I prefer it this way. I mean, if you have a gap, shout outs to the gapsters. Like, I was one. And so did that. I'm not a short guy. I'm 6'1", maybe short in Netherlands, but in most of the rest of the world, I'm pretty solid height. I am pretty muscular. I am what you would think of as in a magazine kind of build. Like, I've been working out since I was maybe 16, 17, and so I'm not like colossal, because that's not the look I want to go for, but like you can tell that I work out. And so all those combinations of things, again, I still had, I still had like a certain view. I'm like, okay, I'm not a bad looking guy, but I'm not like no supermodel looks. But I think over time, with those slight adjustments, I grew my beard out, so I have a full beard, and I guess I didn't realize I had like a chiseled jaw and thing. But basically, I didn't realize what made me start to realize that people consider me very good looking, like beyond just, oh, he's cute, like I'd get, or something like that. But like, it's like when I used to do the sales thing, it was like a kiosk in a mall, and I had to call people over and all this thing. And I'd hear so much. Like, sometimes women would reject my product and be like, I don't know, I'm sorry, I can't get it. You're like very handsome, but like all the time. My fucking manager, like, in fact, I think when it really hit me, because I'd hear it so much, and when it really hit me was like, I remember to these two women. And I wasn't bad with women, and so like I was used to them being pulled, but like I didn't know, like when people saw me there, I was like, oh shit, you know what I mean? Like, and to me it's kind of still surreal. Like, I'm like, damn, people really look at me in that kind of way now. Like, I wasn't that guy before. And so I remember these two women, and they were talking about like the same sales job. There was one of them I was meeting for the first time, and then the other one was like a woman that was there all the time. They were like giggling and stuff and blah blah blah. And so they're like saying that, oh, we're gonna want you to be on stage and like trying to sell to a bunch of people so we can sell a bunch of like vacation packages. And so she's never met me, and she's like, well, fortunately, you're really like nice looking. Nice looking is the word she said. Good. You're really nice looking. I think, if you have it, like, use that to. Mind you, I've never met this woman. Like, I think what just hit me was the casualness with which everybody started saying I was good looking. Like, I'd hear it so much. And again, I really don't want this to come off as this dude just talking about like I say this in the most humble way possible, because I mean, like, I don't like the idea of people either calling somebody else ugly. I hate that. And because I've been there being called ugly before, and I didn't feel good. I hate when people put down other people to make themselves feel better. I will shred you to pieces if I catch you calling somebody ugly. I will like verbally shred you to bits if you try to put somebody down. And I'm around, oh man, I'm fucking you up. Your mentality is done, because that shit is weak. Don't put somebody down to make yourself feel better. Like, I can't. That pisses me off. And so I have no mercy for people like that. And so, now, that was like younger, but like, that was just one person's opinion, but it fucked me when I was like 16. I was like, damn, am I ugly? And so that fluctuated. And so I never believed that. And, when the guy's like, several people was like, damn, we wanted the photographer. She was a woman too. She was like, man, I always thought you'd be a really good model, but I was like, he's probably super arrogant, da 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 da. And the owner of the business asked me to. No, he met me for the first time, and he went to the photographer like, hey, that guy would probably be a really good model, da da da. And so, to this day, and I think women come at me heavy. Like, I've been sexually harassed at my jobs, every job I've had. And when I say sexually harassed, I'm not talking about no damn like she whipped out my shit and like sucked it or something. It was more like walking by, they'll like rub their hand on my ass or something like that. And I mean, double standards, yada yada yada. It's not something I'm like super bothered by. I mean, I'll be like, yo, chill out. And they'll stop. It's nothing crazy. But I could go into so many stories. Even to this day at my current job, like, a lot of women there that a lot of the guys want to smash. I got a girl now, so I don't fuck these women, but I would. They're very attractive women. And so like, the women that a lot of the dudes in the store want are trying to fuck me. I really don't like talking about this because I feel like it feels so vain. But I'm just giving it a real of what, and so yeah, that's just the reality of that. And so I've been offered several things. It's just a different world. It's just a different world, man. Like, women are when you're at a certain point, women get very aggressive. Like I remember my last job, 2 women came up. These were like older women too. And they came up and they were like, listen, like when are we doing this? And I was like, I got a girl, right? And she's like, are you gonna tell her? Because I'm not. And I could have had a threesome right then and there. And again, but I'm just keeping it real. And so women throw themselves at me a lot. If I and also, conversation skills, charisma, all these things that I've worked on, those things weren't like, I'm saying not natural, but like they were definitely honed. And so that's a big player. Like if I was just like handsome and then I was a corny guy, none of that would matter. And so I have to back up my looks with confidence and all these things. But yeah, I wouldn't feel too sorry for me in that department, and so I never talk about it because y'all don't give a fuck. And so Marco, so yeah, Darius, that's kind of that. And so I don't do the modeling anymore. It was just kind of like a thing to get the suits. Like I don't like taking pictures actually at all. Like I maybe have 5 pictures. My family probably has 5 pictures of me in my life. Yeah, I'm not a picture guy. Even though people are like, you should model. Oh my God, you're this and that. Nah, it's not my style. So Marco Venilve, sorry Marco, could you describe how you feel referring to Gen 8 in comparison to Gen 7? For example, do you think the new mods are as good as before, in terms stat wise? I actually like Gen 8. I think it's developing because there's no fucking gimmicks like C moves that surprise. It's just straight competitive. Like there's no bullshit surprise stuff. Dynamax is banned, and so I like it for that reason. And he's like, do you think Pokemon is lacking in terms of development? I would like to know your opinion. Personally, I started since I was 6. I'm now 25. And I've been senior child for like 5 years. Development, I definitely think the stories could hit that same nostalgic level like they hit back in the stories suck. Just straight shit. That's my main thing. As far as like I think they've developed a lot in the competitive area, so I think they're in the right path. And so that's my opinion on that, Marco. Udbhas Mitra. Oh my, I chopped your shit. Udbhas Mitra asks, which position in soccer do you play? I'm not like I don't play on a team where we have 11 on 11. It's more of just like scrimmage, and so I have some skill to where I can play an offensive position, but I do find myself, because of my mentality, because everybody wants to be a striker. I do find myself being like the anchor, and so I will step back and like be kind of that last man sweeper thing, because I'm very good at defending too. So I'd probably be like maybe a center down mid or something, like center or a winger. I don't have a position, but I prefer to be like a wing forward style, right wing. But if like everybody wants to be a striker, then I don't mind like staying in the back and then like dispossessing the opponent and then like running the offense, kind of like a Marcelo style or a Dani Alves. Would you ever get in draft league scene on Showdown rather than Wi-Fi? Nah. Because that's just another thing I just play, like Smogon World Cup and SPL and all these things if I wanted to do that. The Wi-Fi is just the experience for me, and so that's what I'm about. So I have no interest in Showdown draft league. How do you enjoy others meet? Whoo! Need some water for this one. So I'll run over this one real quick because I don't want this to be like ultra long, even though I'm through most of the questions at the moment. So how did you, Joey, and the others meet? I actually knew Blunder. I've told this story quite a few times. I actually knew Blunder before I knew anybody else. Like anybody. Like I'm talking like not even. I thought I heard something. I'm talking not even close. Like not even close. I knew Blunder way like. Man, I started off fumbling around in Generation 4. No, it was Generation 5, but I was like one of those people. Pokemon is supposed to be like flat and simple, like back in Generation 3 and 4, and so now they're getting all 3D and all this. I'm not playing that. So forgive me. And so I was so adamant. No, it looks too real. Pokemon's supposed to be like, cause I'm stuck in my childhood ways, and so maybe 15 at this point. And so there was this chat called, I think, the VG chat. Oh my god, the memories. And Blunder's name on there was Resh. I remember Blunder was just this cocky, like thinking he got it all going on. Like he was always like that. And I smashed him. And he talked shit and that blah blah yada yada yada. And he disconnected. And actually, I don't think he disconnected then. But like he had this kind of air of arrogance about him. And these were just like little zats, like one-off chats that you had to kind of stumble on and discover on the internet. There was no Showdown chat. Nothing of that nature. Okay, so I had to check on something. But yeah, and so I wasn't cool with him for a while. He was just like whatever. And I had another man, Mr. Muse 72. I wonder what happened to him. I had a friend of his that I was cool with, and I used to play a lot with. I think he was Indian too. And so we never really interacted for years, but I knew him looking back way before anybody else. I just didn't like him. And so with Joey, I met Joey through a guy named Dangerous36M, Rick. We used to have these Skype calls. We just play Pokemon all night. Yo, use the academy to make friends, man. Like that's what it's about. Like we didn't have resources like this. We just had to stumble around and hope we found some friends. Oh, hop on Skype and we'll get in call, and that's how we made friends and got in calls back in the day and played Pokemon. Like it's way more fun when you have a gang to play with. And so, yeah, like Skype, and then I met Rick randomly because we'd like be laddering together. And Rick is like, it's crazy to think how crazy that is, but at the same time, like how normal that was to just hop in a call with a stranger that you've never met as kids. Like we used to do that shit like it was nothing. Hop in call, bro. Oh, add him to the call, bro. And so Rick I was destroying Rick on the ladder, I think, and he's like, "Oh, do you guys have a call? Can I join?" Mind you, this is Dangerous36M, a famous YouTuber at this point. And so we're like, "Oh shit!" This was when I had my channel, but I wasn't like, I had maybe 300, 200 subscribers. So I often call. Me and Rick became cool, and then Rick was obviously well connected with everybody. The show foods back then was like the biggest. Joey, all these people, and I've messaged Joey before, but I wasn't cool with him like that to where we're like cool. Just think back, man, like now we're like, that's one of my best friends. But yeah, I added Joey to one of the calls one night. We started chopping it up. Joey added PK. You know, I started to know PK. PK added Chris. And so Chris added Chimpack because they were all connected. They were all part of the YouTube crew. And so that's how I got integrated into the YouTube crew. As simple as that. And so we'd have these calls for hours. Like we'd hop on summer days. We'd hop on and from fucking 7 in the morning because our sleep schedules were fucked. Oh no, we wouldn't hop on that early because we had so many different time zones. So we'd like hop on from like, we'd play till like 6 in the morning, right? And then we'd sleep till 2. Hop on, and we'd be on Skype playing Lateran till like literally all night until 6 again. Like I lived and breathed Pokemon because I loved it. Like I loved it and I had shit to do. I'm a fucking like teenager. Like you know, the fuck else I'm gonna do? I have to study for a test, like you know. But so yeah, we played Mons all the time. My best friends, cause I didn't really have a lot of friends in high school like that. Like that I could be like, oh yeah, this is my boy I hung out with. I don't think I had any of those. Like I was actually very isolated in high school. I wouldn't be what you consider like you know, like a loser or something, but I definitely wasn't like a popular dude or anything of that nature. It was just a culture shock because I moved to America in high school, and so I think, you know, I just didn't. It was not till later on that I really got into the swing. I think maybe 4 years later, and I'm like, oh, I get this now. So I dominated, be at 21, 2021, and so yeah. But yeah, I was not a cool kid by any means. And that's so freeing to be able to discuss now because, I don't know, I think something similarly to, you know, my upbringing money wise, maybe there was a degree of shame around that, but fuck that, dude, you know, fuck that. So yeah, and so actually Joey ended up adding Blunder. I still didn't like Blunder, and then I think we just ended up chit chatting and I got over it because we were beefing easy, like we actually were beefing, and because he disconnected on me when I was smacking him. It's the classic 6-0 him with Scyther. I had a sub Scyther and I played him on what's called the Smogon Wi-Fi Battle Finder back in the day. And yeah, he disconnected on me and never forgave him. Because I was about to 6-0 him, but he didn't want to upload it, so you could disconnect back in those days. That's the equivalent of clicking X now. Because it would allow the opponent to not be able to save the battle. You just turn off your DS. Such scum. It's my boy now, though. My boy now. Who would have thought? Good times. So that's how we met, y'all. Alex R asked, "What's the sexiest Pokemon?" Sexiest Pokemon, huh? I don't know. Maybe like, oh, Katarina or some shit. I don't know. Because you have a couple of those Pokemon that are like strictly built in like a woman kind of way, like the Lilligants, the Hatterines, that kind of hourglass shape. Asking for trouble when you click Google Images kind of Pokemon, like the Lilligant is such an irrelevant Pokemon now. Like, man, what the fuck happened to that thing? Like I forgot that shit existed. You know, Lopunny, Gardevoir, you know, the classics. But yeah. You ever plan on doing a face reveal? Teabag? I don't know. Right now it's no, but I can't say it's no indefinitely. Face reveal is less about my face and more about I like my privacy, and there's no upside to doing a face reveal for my style of content. Yeah, so that's my logic behind that. Dr. Slacking asked, what advice would you give other people grinding Pokemon YouTube videos? I'd say, as weird as it sounds, connections. Get connected. And the best way to get connected is to offer value to those who you want to get connected with. So I think a lot of times the biggest mistake I see people make is when they're trying to get, like, the worst thing you can ever do is go, yo, Jam blank, right? You PM me, yo, Jam blank. It's not about asking for help, but you don't acknowledge my experience, nor do you're asking me for something, and you don't offer anything in return. So the people who have gotten the closest to me are people who come, yo, Jam, I noticed you're I can make these thumbnails for you, offer value. Because at that point I'm like, yo, dude, you're in my circle, man. Whatever you need, because you took the time to give something to me. And here's the key: you don't ask for it. It's not like, okay, when you give it, can you feature me on your channel after that? No, that's not how you do that, because then you're just seem like another leech. And when you have access to thousands of people, the last thing I need is another leech. And so the people who like have access to me are people who offer value. And so definitely Dr. Slacking is one of these people. I've actually messaged him and said he's on the right path. But just offer value. If you want to get in contact with Joey, become cool with him, offer him something of value. He's like, okay, he's like, oh, da, da, da. Yo, I have this skill set, or I'm good at making this, or boom, do something selfless, and it will always work. Always work. Because nobody's gonna be like, oh yeah, thanks, and just be ungrateful about it. They're gonna be like, man, you really going out of your way to do this thing to help me out with nothing in return. Who are you, man? I like you. And so once that's established, even though it feels like a means to an end thing, you may never get the outcome you want, but it's a much better way through the door as far as collaborations go. Because then I'm going to take interest in what you got going on. Damn, bro, like, is there anything I can do for you? Oh yeah, I'm actually trying to grow this YouTube channel. I'm trying to get exposure. Bet, say less. I'm going to shout you out in my next video. Or bet, I'm going to link your video. Or I'm going to have a collaboration with you. And so collaborations are huge. And just know what you're talking about and be clear. Make sure your content sounds like something that, if you're an educational channel, make sure you're not using a ton of complicated verbiage that make you sound intelligent, but somebody who is new and is trying to understand can't relate. And do for your subscriber, like, so many people follow me and give so willingly because, man, how much free shit I do, like, you know what I mean? And so there's never, I don't, nothing wrong with selling shirts or anything like that, but I don't make shit off YouTube. Like, man, you know how, like, not even minimum wage, and I daily upload, like, and so minimum wage would be what, 7 times 30? Yeah, I don't even make minimum wage in the US from a daily video. And so I'm like, man, I love this shit, man. It's a hobby of mine. And so I think that energy is evident. And so if I'm like, yo, I'm putting out this book, people aren't like, I can't believe you're selling. I've had people get mad, bro, why aren't you marketing your book more, man? Like, I never get those people, man, I can't believe. You get haters, you have those one or two, but I think those people don't, they're not mad about me trying to sell a book. They're mad about just me. So those come about. And a hater, I classify the hater as not somebody who can give criticism. I get criticism all the time. And it's helped me a lot in my development, especially as a content creator. But somebody who just vehemently is negative and they seek solely negative things to complain about. So they'll watch a video and they'll say, man, you never give your opponent credit. and like I could literally physically point out like maybe 10 different times where I'm like, my opponent played well here. Oh man, this was fully my mistake here. Da da da. And they find the one time that something is perceived at me as me not giving them credit, and then they'll jump on that, and I know, okay, that person is looking for something to be mad about with regards to me. It has nothing to do with the content. It has everything to do with them and their state and their worldview. And so I just don't take it personally. It's just like, I wish them the best, whatever you're going through. I hope you get through it, and send the love out, and move on with my day. It's easier. Older General Skywalker, OG sub. What are your favorite football, soccer clubs? Been a Chelsea fan for 4 years. Disgusting. And I'm only recently joined Atlanta United in MLS. I don't watch any MLS, but my favorite team is Liverpool. Ever since 2009, I forgot FIFA, as I was saying earlier, and I fell in love with Liverpool and Fernando Torres from back in the day, and Liverpool's been my team ever since. Liverpool / Barcelona, because I'm a big Messi fan. So, but Liverpool nudges out Barcelona. Like when they faced last year, I wanted Liverpool to win more than I want Barcelona to win. Even though Messi's my favorite player, been since 2009, since he was like 20. Liverpool's my favorite team. So yeah. How is Envy the greatest monotype random battler? Because I don't play the tier. I forgot my name asked, why do you think OU is always the most popular tier despite Uber having the most powerful and iconic Pokemon? It's most popular because every tier branches off from OU, and so OU is technically overused. And so the Pokemon that are overused, meaning they get used the most, so technically the best Pokemon are in OU in a way of looking at it. And Uber is just a ban list. And so people don't respect a ban list tier. That's how Uber originally originated, and then it got enough Pokemon banned to it to where it became a tier. But it was a ban list of OU. Also, the lower tiers have often offered much better meta, healthier games than OU at times, yet they were still less popular. And the same logic. OU is overused, and and this might be more mental than anything else, but it's the original tier, and so I think that's why the respect always goes to that tier, and the player base always gravitates toward that tier, because if you're not the best in OU, you're not the best. So yeah. Hopefully I'm not late, but how do you deal with the doubt and lack of support? To keep a long story short, I have my fair share of toxic environments, and I've been my own support system for almost 19 years, and it's tough, but I don't fold. I know you're a very educated man. I appreciate that. I didn't know I was very educated. I'm well read, I guess. Could be better read. If I do say so myself, I just thought I'd ask. Bro, so like how some people watch Netflix, movies, even YouTube, or maybe this is a woman. I listen to podcasts and interviews of like multiple variations of rags to riches stories, and so it keeps me very optimistic. And I'm a strong believer in autonomy. And so, like, let's say your environment is toxic at the moment, are you doing everything that you could do to remove yourself from that toxic environment? And what I mean by that is, let's say, I lived with my dad. My dad is in a toxic environment. Like, I love my dad. Like, it's not but I'm saying, like, right out of college, and I think 4 months later I moved out. 5 months later I moved out. I was living in that room. I was sharing a bed with my little brother. That was not my spot. Because he moved in, like, he got married, or he's with a woman. They're married now, but and so he was at her house and he was renting out his house, and so that wasn't tailored for me after leaving college. It's my little brother's room, and so I moved in with him. Obviously, it was not the best bringing women or having a social life. I had no car, and so I wrote down, even though I had no job, no money, nothing. I wrote down with a friend because we were always talking about how things are going to change. I wrote down, like, by my birthday, which is about 2 months out, 3 months out, I'll have an apartment. And so I got to work. I'm like, it wasn't a toxic environment, like family wise, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. And so I got 2 jobs, and I got up at 6, had no car, took a Uber, which cost me $10 to get there, more than I was getting paid for an hour for both these jobs. 10 hours to get back, so $20 a day, $100 a week US in just transportation, which is a huge chunk of my weekly check. And I didn't have the hours at one job, so I found it was a Planet Fitness and an at home. I worked at the at home from 7 to 1, and then I got off, and I had to start Planet Fitness at 2. Got off at 1, got something to eat in between, and then I started at 2, and then I worked till 10. And so I did that for 4 or 5 months. And so I literally wouldn't even see my dad during the week, because he'd go to work at 11 and come back at 11. By the time he comes back, by the time I leave, he hasn't left. He's in bed. By the time I come home, he's not back yet. And so I'd be asleep because I'd be exhausted from those days. And so I just saved up and saved up. Now, was it cute? Was it pretty? No. But I understood that, okay, there's no way around this without sacrifice. And so what would I rather sacrifice? My happiness, in the sense of, like kind of just staying in this environment hoping for change, or do I sacrifice my time and energy, comfort, pride, all these things, for a better future? Now, as far as like the doubt and lack of support, I want to say to you, I've always had that, but like a natural like self-supportiveness, but I can't really say that because I've been supported so much, in the sense of like I've never had somebody not believe in me. And so for my family, I was treated as sort of like a golden child. I was a lot of firsts, first for scholarships, first for college, first for going to like a solid school, like first for everything, right? I'd say ultimately the answer to this, if they're not supporting you, is to detach yourself from the need for their support. And so I'm trying to think of a way that is not just based on things that I had no control over, like my parents being supportive or something. Honestly, I'd watch a ton of interviews of rags to riches stories, because I find storytelling, particularly with that self-doubt and lack of support, when you see and listen all the time to people who have been through hell and did it, it just sparks something within you. And it provides perspective as well, because maybe right now your toxic environment is you having a Porsche, obviously I doubt that's what it is, but like, and your dad, is a dickhead, but you're like very well off. It sometimes provides that perspective, and sometimes like the environment isn't even as toxic, and it's just your perspective, or maybe you're entitled. I'm not saying all these things are the case, I just don't know. And so I think that the punchline is, what sacrifice would you be willing to make to change things? And that might not be a quick fix, that might take a year of just sacrifices, but as long as you have a goal in mind, easier said than done. And please listen to audiobooks on this, read, like you have to combat that negative environment with your own positive bubble. My mom has and currently has a similar environment. She's still in Jamaica, and I've communicated that over the years to her, and she like very negative environment, but bubbles, like, you know, all she listens to is positive shit on YouTube. And her mindset and her outcome and lifestyle and all these things have changed tremendously from just that. And she's one of the reasons that you know, I'm going to be a very great man, because I never want her to ever have to think about anything financial or having to put up with anything ever again. And so, yeah, you know, create your own bubble with the very little you can, the bare minimum, and hopefully that's helpful. So, yeah, Dale, I'm no expert, you know, I just do what I can and share through my own experiences. And so, yeah, much love to you, because that's not easy. Caleb White asks, why don't you play at least some VGC? You could come up out the water, the strongest VGC mind in the nation. Your face reveal would be winning big tournaments. Because I just don't have the desire to, like, it would be cool. I've thought about being good at VGC too. It would be cool, but I have other things that I want more, like I've discussed in the beginning of this video. And so VGC, much like chess, poker, and all these things that I could be good at, I much rather share the wealth of knowledge I've uncovered from Smoke on. A VGC trophy is just not gonna cut it. Like, my visions are far bigger than Pokemon, and so Pokemon is just a hobby. A hobby that's happened to be fulfilling. Come to learn. And so that's my reason. But I enjoy VGC. I think it's really cool. But I don't like investing my time in things that I'm not like elite at. I don't like playing things just to be mediocre, especially if I'm competing. Do you have a job?
I do.
This is your job. Do you love it? This is not my job. Yes, I do have a job. I addressed that in the beginning. And so, Fantasy Night, hopefully you heard that. Is that you? Is that me? No cap. No, that's CTC. Word of fire, though. No, that's CTC. Because I posted the no cap thing. Yeah. 3 more questions left. Yes, I'm keeping it under 2 hours. Yes. I have a very deep question, and the answer might have a huge impact on my life. I know you're Jamaican. How fast can you run? I don't know right now. I actually had the potential to be, I think, an athlete. Like an athlete. Like, I competed amongst other kids at the time around the country. Like, I quit because I didn't like the coach. Looking back, I didn't just quit because of that. I always knew that I didn't want to do athletics for a living. I always wanted to go into something intellectual. This is my 10-year-old self, and so I didn't like the coach. But I had a gift in like sprinting. Like, I had, even in high school, I had dabbled back into it, but I just never really went back into it. And so now, probably not as fast as I probably could, but I had the aptitude for it. And so, yeah. Moxie Boosted asks, what made you write a book on Pokemon? Okay, so let's start from the beginning. So, over the years, initially I did not intend to be some Pokemon guru as people see me. I was just like you. I just wanted to share my games. And so, over time, I started to become better, and I'd put myself in different situations, tournaments, and I'd perform well. And I'm like, man, I thought these tournament players were like these like gods of Pokemon, and I could never compete with them, and I'd beat them fucking convincingly too. And so once you win enough of those games, you start to realize, oh shit, they're just normal ass dudes. And if you make the correct play, you win. And so I started to, from topping the ladder to topping tournaments to topping my tier, people started to really respect me and view me as like it, like in regards to competitive Pokemon, like that guy, like the guy, the sage of Pokemon type shit. Everybody. That's when I was semi-active in small guy community. And so when my battles would come, like it would be like a movie. Like people would be like, oh my god, like if you remember the meme, the mincemeat is playing, and like there'd be droves of people to watch my games. Partly because I was a YouTuber, but also like I was playing it in such a level that like people were just mesmerized by the games. And so from then, you know, I'd always go on and off because of IRL shit, on and off with YouTube. I was never consistent. And so I think it came a point in like 2017, I was almost graduating college, and I was like, man, like, you know, I might have to leave YouTube. You know, I don't want to be a YouTuber for a living. Like, I have no interest in that. I have all these goals that I want, these people's lives I want to impact. And so, you know, is YouTube really the time? Is it worth my time at this point? You know, I don't make a lot of money. I think the most I've ever made on YouTube in a month is $500, and that's like at the peak. Like I don't make, or $512 or something. Like, so I was never uploading for money. Wish I made more, but it is what it is. I love the game. I love sharing. And so as I was contemplating quitting, at the time I was, you know, as I said, I had no job. I just graduated university. And so initially I was watching a video and they were talking about, you know, how you can make money online, and they're like, write a book. And so actually that was part of the reason I wrote the first book. Partly money, but also what hit me was, because prior to that I was thinking, man, because I could have just sold a shirt and, you know, made some dough and, you know, dipped or whatever. But that's just never been what I was about. And for a while I was kind of, I guess I'd call it insecurity, for lack of a better term. Insecure about like sharing all my wealth of knowledge fully, like some secrets. Like the book has all my secrets of mines, like things you'd never know anywhere else, concepts that I came up with and all these things, and break it down in such a way. And so I was like, man, if I get my secrets out, then I won't be the best anymore. Like I'll be creating competition. But then I realized, nah, that's insecurity. Like if you're really the best, if you have to keep information away to keep your title, you're a coward. And so I didn't respect that within myself, that part of me that was thinking that. And so I decided I was gonna make a video series initially. And so I changed the channel name to Jamvad. Did I change it to university yet? No, I hadn't changed it to university yet. But I had, but like it was like an exit strategy. Like I'm gonna leave YouTube, and so I want to leave all my wealth of knowledge out there, but I want it to be in one place. And so when I watched that video and they were talking about writing a book, I was like, a book? Do I dare? Boy. Who do I dare think I am to write a book? And so I pieced together some manuscript and got to work. And so that's what was my first book, which wasn't that good in my opinion. And that was, in my opinion, a failure. A lot of people got it and all that stuff, and you know, got me some money. Nothing crazy, because it was like a $8 book or a $7 book. And so when I realized, man, I was hoping to really shift the community with that book, and it wasn't happening. I mean, some people got success. A lot of the great players today probably benefited from my book back then, but it just wasn't that great. And so me hearing those reviews, a lot of the reviews would be like, it's a little generic. I was hoping for some serious insights and da da da. But it wasn't a bad book, but it wasn't like making the change in the ways that I thought. And so that bugged me. And so I would struggle promoting my book because I knew in the back of my mind, because integrity is big for me. And I knew in the back of my mind I couldn't promote it with integrity, knowing all the criticism. But that would mean I'd have to face that. I'd either have to write it again, or that I'd have to just acknowledge that I failed. And both happened. I had to acknowledge that I failed at communicating what I needed to with that book. And I had to start the fuck over. And that hurt. That fucking hurt. I detailed this in the beginning of the book. You can preview it on Amazon. That hurt, and I didn't want to start over. And so one big thing with me that drives me is I don't want to ever feel a ton of regret. And I knew if I left Pokemon and I left that book as the final book, I'd regret it. And it would be akin to me saying that everything that my entire channel was meaningless because you didn't even leave all your knowledge to those coming up and those supporting you. Like, it's as if I was saying my knowledge and time here was meaningless. And so I'm like, no, you gotta give back everything this game gave you. Give it and share it. And so while it was very hard, I spent the next about a year and a half or a year rewriting the book. I started interviewing like players. I really had to go back to ground zero. And so I started PMing people who are 1100 on the ladder, and I was like, what do you think of when you think of a lead? Okay, when you see a team preview, I'm like literally going on Showdown PMing random people and watching games. I'm like, okay, what's the difference here? And I tried to become the person I wanted to understand. And so I rewrote it off that, discovered a lot of principles, retaught myself how to play based on those principles. And then I was like, okay, I can't have the same thing happen again. I got to test it. And so I created a series called Rag to Riches. It's on my channel right now, where I took the principles, took the book, and I had somebody who was 1100, and I tried to teach them using the principles of the book how to play. And the guy got from 1100 to 1700 in 3 weeks. And so a lot of that helped me refine the book. And so added new concepts. But it also was proof that it worked. And I've repeated that several times. And so I'm like, oh, okay. This is finally something I can be proud of. Released it again. This time people didn't criticize whether it impacted them. But I got this one comment that was like, yo, Jam, the grammar could have been better, the formatting could have been better, blah, blah, blah. And Joey helped a lot in this process. Chloe helped a lot in this process. And so I think the final refined product is the one that's out now, where I had it re-edited, and it's gold now. Like, truly something I can be proud of. Like, when I reread that shit, I'm like, oh my fucking God, did I write this? Like, I can't even believe. Like, this shit just sounds so wise. I'm like, who the fuck wrote this shit? And it's so like it humbles me to a degree that like almost brings a tear to my eye. I'm like, I feel a weird feeling in my chest just talking about this. That I'm like, how could I have produced something like that? And it took me a year and a half of going back into my failure and not wanting to live with regret. And so now I thought after I released the book, I'm like, okay, now I need to release a video series and then I'm done. Like, I've given everything to the community. But then what ended up happening was the grammar issues, got that fixed. But then I discovered, oh man, like, we need a community. Academy was born. Okay. And then I started getting a bunch of PMs now that people had access to me. And I'm like, yo, it's heavily psychological, because I had a lot of coaching clients and a lot of their problems wasn't the skill only, it was how to handle defeat. And so from there I'm like, oh my God, I got a lot more to give. And so the articles were born, the website was born, and so here we are today. And I still have so much to give, and I'm still here because I still have a lot more that I want to share with you guys before I don't feel like I've emptied all that I can offer. All the things that I've learned, all the articles that I can produce, I haven't given it. And for me to leave before I've given everything and shared everything with you guys that I have would be a failure on my part, and I'd always regret it. The PMs I get, man, the PMs I get about like people saying how it's bigger than Monster them, and the confidence, 1300 to 1600 isn't just a ladder thing, it's a mindset thing. 1300 to 1600 in life, you may think you can only make $500 a month, and you don't know you can make 2,000. That's a mindset thing, and that's what that shift does. It gives you that confidence, and so that's what I'm about, man. That's what I'm about, and that's why I created the book, the academy, the articles, why I still upload, why I put up with this shit even though I don't make shit from this, and my time probably would be better invested elsewhere in building my actual businesses outside of them. So I'm still here, man. I love it. Like, I love y'all, like, fully, truly. And so my subs have given me far too much for me to shortchange them of all that I could share. And so that's why I created the book. How do you come up with Jamvad? Jamaica. And it was Mrjamvad. It was my original channel name. That was suggested by Google. I didn't expect to have a channel, and so Jamaica and part of my name, which is Vad, and boom, Mrjamvad. But Google's put the Mr. part, and Mrjamvad was born. And then people just shortened it, changed it to Jamvad, and then people shortchanged it to Jam. And so that's why I'm Jam now. I'm have a whole alter ego. That's crazy. But that's all the questions. 2 hours. I enjoyed this a lot. This was very cathartic. And for those who made it here, man, thank you. And please leave a comment. Not necessarily about this or that, but like what you thought. Like, I'd appreciate that. I'd really enjoy reading those. So thanks for watching or listening, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.